I want to start out this talk with an opening that I did in another talk from 2014. I thought it went so well with what's going on today. I thought it was important, and I want to share it with you now. So this is what I wrote. Do you remember when all the paranoia and chaos around the beginning of the year 2012, actually December 21st, 2011 was the beginning of it. It all took place, that it was supposed to be the end of the calendar year as we knew it, and the end of humanity to a lot of people. This was all taking place then. Many world calendars were ending, and that was to signify the end of our days, and a lot of people were freaking out. So while I don't believe personally in the end of time crisis that came about in 2012, it was still a time of great change, tremendous change. If you can think back that far in 2011 to 2012, all the change that was taking place, and a lot of it took place if we were preparing and not preparing. But think of all the change that took place in your life at that time. I know for me, every single thing about my life changed. From 2011 to 2012, I changed where I lived. I started Joyful Gathering. We started Joyful Gathering the year before, so that was shifting, taking up my energy, thank God. And I left a marriage of 42 years. So everything imaginable, just about, almost, was taking place, all in that 1 year. So there was a huge shift occurring. So I believe that we have been consciously and unconsciously, this is what I wrote, or by default, preparing to do things in a new way. Why do you think so many systems and structures have fallen and are still falling apart? They have to fall apart so that they can be put back together again from a new consciousness. Remember, before we get to clarity, there appears to be much chaos. We know that Einstein was a mathematical genius, and he was also just plain brilliant in every way. He said the most profound words. The significant problems that we face cannot be solved at the same level of thinking that created them. And I'm still on to what I wrote in 2014. Humankind is in the midst of an evolutionary shift up. Things are breaking down so they can be rebuilt from a place of new thinking, new place in consciousness. And we are the people to bring that new level of consciousness to the table. Break down before breakthrough. So that was written exactly 8 years ago this week. So that was pretty interesting also. I did that one in January of 2014. And we have been talking about this huge shift in consciousness in evolution for the last 10 years. And guess what? It looks like it's taken place. And it was never supposed to be real easy transition. Most things in life come with a bang, or they come with chaos. And there's a lot of chaos going on. But there's a way that we can stay centered and stay aligned with truth that will get us through anything, absolutely anything. We have spent the last 3 Sundays in January, it's all been about evolution, looking at the 4 of the 5 tenets of enlightened evolution. According to Andrew Cohen in his book, Evolutionary Enlightenment, that's what we've been using. So let me repeat the first 4 tenets we have covered. The first was clarity of intention to evolve. a strong, clear intention for our evolution. The second was the power of volition, which is our free will, and taking 100% responsibility for our experiences. Then the third one, we looked at everything and avoid nothing. That was the third one. And really, the power of responsibility fits right in there. And the fourth one was the process perspective. And this is when we see our personal lives and experiences from the perspective of a higher cosmic process. Not just in the human realm, but in the cosmic world. And from this perspective, we see our personal experiences or the drama that seems to be taking place from the authentic self, our divine self. It's one of the greatest gifts, and I've said this before, and I can't say it enough, I say it for myself too, that I've given myself is this teaching that we have here. And I can't wait till we really start the classes again and really get into what is religious science, what is science of mind, of new thought, because it gives us that power to know that there's an innate divine presence within us that will always support us, that knows that we are divinity itself. So we have one final tenet, according to Cohen, and it is not a standalone tenet. In fact, it is more a result of the previous four. He suggests that if you wholeheartedly pursue your own clarity or intention to evolve, and if you take unconditional responsibility for your power of volition, and if you fearlessly face everything and avoid nothing, and if you cultivate a process perception in earnest, then you become aware of an arising sense of cosmic conscience, which Cohen describes as a care and concern for the vast evolutionary process of all humankind. And he writes this in his book: you will recognize that your own spiritual development, your liberation from ego, is absolutely essential for the evolution of humanity. This is why your motives become, I want to be free, not only for my own sake, but for the sake of the whole. This is the awakening of cosmic conscience. Well, I love these words of Cohen's. I think they are accurate and profound and beautiful, but I don't think that they are complete, just as he has written them. I don't think they go far enough. I believe that they are missing something absolutely critical. When we awaken, this is important, this talk, as you'll see at the end, I think is really important, especially for what we are all experiencing through this shift that is occurring in our lives. When we awaken to cosmic conscience, not only do we awaken to the idea that we play a significant role in the world of humanity, but we awaken to the idea that we are part of the whole of creation. There's a spiritual dimension to this wholeness that cannot be left out if we are truly going to evolve. What is the term, so this is for us, what is the term in religious science, new thought, for this idea? It would be Christ consciousness, which we talk a whole lot about. Ernest Holmes has a whole chapter, it's a beautiful chapter in his Science of Mind book, about the Christ consciousness, and we usually use it around the holidays, Christmas time, because it's all about light. So Christ is, the word Christ is a title of an anointed one. That's what it means, anointed one. We are each anointed ones. We are the sons and daughters of the Most High, each and every one of us. We are connected to humanity, yes. And we are also connected to something much, much more, much bigger. Holmes writes this in Science of Mind. There is a place in our mentality, in the heights of our greatest realizations, where we throw ourselves with complete abandonment into the very center of the universe. There is a point in the supreme moment of realization where we merge with the universe, but not to the loss of our individuality. Where a sense of oneness of all life, a sense so enters our being that there is no sense of otherness. We can only do this by dwelling and meditating upon the immensity of life and the fact that as vast, and this is all Holmes, and as immense, as limitless as it is, the whole of it brought to our point of consciousness. We can experience the allness all at this, in this one point of our consciousness. The way of the cosmic conscience or Christ consciousness, the way in which we realize our true and profound relationship with the universal whole, and that's to God. It is not only the way in which we realize the role that we play in the world, but this complete realization that we are one with the whole. That is where the rubber meets the road, as they say, for many of us, right? We think everyone else, or a lot of people, they're one with the whole, but not us. We think everyone else walks around feeling good about themselves. You know, look at that person, they're always happy, but not us. This is a pervasive and potentially deadly way of being and thinking. And I say deadly because I believe it's going to take our understanding of who and whose we truly are in order for this new consciousness to emerge. We must be open and receptive, number one, and have established this relationship with that indwelling presence within us. Number two, we are guided all of the time. And when we have this personal realization and relationship with that indwelling God self, that's when we can go through all of these changes and challenges in life and still know it is all good. Know it is happening for the highest good. It doesn't look like it lots of times, but it is. And that's where that belief, that faith comes in. I, being the eternal optimist, believe that a major shift is already occurring for many of us as each one shifts in conscious, in awareness. It affects the whole. We are all shifting right now. Quantum physics tells us, I mean, that's why I'm excited about that workshop, because it's based in quantum physics, that if one star moves, if it changes direction, it affects all the planets, billions of miles away. Everything is connected in this wholeness of this universal oneness, everything. And so do not think of it as myself, I of myself can do nothing. Think of it as I of myself can do everything. I of myself can do everything. And I love this line from Illusions by Richard Bach. Argue for your limitations, and they are yours. We are so much more, and we have a purpose here, which I want to get into. We have an absolute purpose here. The limitations are not your divine truth, but will become yours in your experience if that's what we focus on. So I've said before, and now is the time, we other people, to bring forth this evolution. It's happening anyway. But we know spiritual truth. we do know spiritual truth. And so in spiritual truth, everything is in divine right order, right? Our lives are in divine right order. We need to remember this. Remember, the rubber hits the road. We need to practice what we've been talking about to bring forth the evolution that is already taking place. We can only be the people that put on that cloak of Christ consciousness, our true light being selves. We have been, and I truly believe this, and I know that many of you do, we have been created to be the light showers, the light bearers, to hold this spiritual truth for so many who cannot. So many who cannot. And it's needed right now. There's a story. I've told this before, but I think it fits right in here. A seeker who heard there was a council of evolved masters high atop a mountain in a faraway land. He so desired to learn at the feet of these evolved beings that he sold everything he owned and headed out on a long journey to reach them. It was a journey filled with hardships, losses, and pain. It took years and years for him to get there. And as the years passed and he was on this journey, other people joined him and they traveled together. And finally, they reached the precipice. Finally, they reached the location of these esteemed, evolved masters. So they walked in, found this room, they went up, they walked in, and all of these robed and hooded masters were seated around a table. And the seeker's hearts leapt with joy. Finally, after an arduous journey, they had finally arrived. So they rushed to the table, only to find the robes empty. They were shocked. They were dismayed and they were disheartened. But then they came to this realization that they were the ones to put on the robes because they were the masters they had been looking for. And that's where the story ends, but I want to take it a little bit further than that. I think there should be more. I think that the seeker and his friends, who are now evolved masters, should now get up and go out into the world and spread this light that they have acknowledged, that they have consciously brought into their awareness. And share that enlightenment. Share the light with the world. That is for all of us to do, to share our lights on this planet. Whatever that word means to you. I know to me it means that Christ consciousness. That consciousness of knowing that everything is truly unfolding for the highest good. And we stay in that knowing. We might divert here and there, but come back to it and absolutely know it. You are so much more powerful than we could ever know we are. Each and every one of us. Ernest Holmes writes in Science of Mind, as the human gives way to the divine in all people. Now he doesn't say in some people, but all people, they become the Christ. Enlightened evolution, putting on the cloak of Christ consciousness, is about realizing who we are and evolving into becoming. We are always becoming as we show up in this world and relate to ourselves and others. And Cohen describes it like this in his book. In traditional enlightenment, which is about awakening to the timelessness, formless being, there is no such thing as relatedness. Because there is only one. But in an evolutionary enlightenment, when the emphasis shifts from being to becoming, one wholeheartedly enters the world of time, form, and relatedness. In fact, one discovers that relatedness is the whole point of the manifest world. The universe was created so that relationship could occur. Think about this. I'm still reading from him. Why else would God have ever left the timeless singularity of the ground of being? Before the Big Bang, in that empty ground, there was only unbroken oneness. But that one chose to become many, and in the birth of the many, relatedness became the very fabric of emerging. You know, it's a lot to take in, and we're going to do something at the end to just embody all of this. At the place of being, there is a stillness, a peace, a quiet, a soft sense of oneness, the experience of egoless unity, or oneness that has always been the highest spiritual idea. We usually get to this place when we're deep in meditation. But then it can only last while we are in that meditation. And so when we go out into the world of multiplicity or conflict, chaos, and you know, after you finish meditating and you're so light and you're connected to the oneness of God, well, walking out the door and having the chaos that happens in life anyway, it can make us not so Christ-like. So sometimes we're not so Christ-like, but it's always remembering that Christ consciousness is always there within us. But just think what the world would be like if many individuals were able to remain conscious of that absolute unity, while creatively engaging in the world of multiplicity, which is many. Imagine, if you could, that same experience of oneness with your eyes wide open, not immersed in stillness, not deep in a meditative state, but eyes wide open, engaging with others. And with this life process, what would an evolved world look like? What would it look like? So, my friends, there's a lot at stake here. There really is. And it comes down to what we've learned is necessary for the evolution of humanity and this planet and further out. Because as I said, one thing shifts, everything shifts. You notice in families, one person shifts, the whole family can shift. And it usually does happen. So there's a lot at stake. The time is right. The time is right. The situation is ripe for it. There is no longer just ourselves, as we see in this global pandemic and global everything that's taken on economy. It's not just one country. It's global now. It has always been, but we are aware of it. We are aware of it. Our ability or inability to evolve has a universal consequence. So we're going to take another little journey now to just absorb all of those words and hopefully a thought or two about Christ consciousness, light consciousness, truly evolving, becoming. So I ask you to just take a breath, just breathe in. If you want to close your eyes, you can. Because this is a journey of being and becoming. Put yourself in the role of seeker in the story I just shared earlier. And you have just reached the top of the mountain. You have walked into the room of the enlightened masters and have found the robes to be empty. You stand there for a moment, perplexed, upset, at the arduous journey you have just taken. So it looks like it's for nothing. And then you realize that the journey has in fact honed you and given you the insights and ability to put on the robe of yourself. So in your mind's eye, right now, put that robe on. And in this robe, become aware about your true nature. There is a point in the supreme moment of realization where you merge with the universe, but not to the loss of your individuality, where a sense of oneness of all life so enters our being, and that there is no sense of otherness, just a complete connection with the whole of life. This is a moment of realization. Just breathe that moment of realization in. And with this realization, you move up from the table and leave this peace and quiet of this sacred space and come out into the world. See your world with fresh eyes today. See everyone from the deepest I am space within you. See the divine in the greeting and meeting, and divine in others. Now that the I am presence walks as you and walks around you, realize, in fact, that you are walking in the land of I am. And when you do, when you walk in that land of I am, that light of shining your brilliant wisdom and light, you will move yourself and humankind forward on an upward spiral of becoming, of evolving, consciously evolving and holding the light, not only for ourselves, but for this whole entire planet. That is what we are here to do. And so it is.
So it is.